Kia ora, everybody. Welcome to the ACE RMO 2024 Wellington Region Webinar. My name is Georgina. I'm the ACE RMO consultant. We're going to start off with an introduction video and I'll give everyone a brief outline.
Tui a ki ronga, tui a ki raro, tui a ki roto, tui a ki waho, ka rongo te pō, ka rongo te ao, haumia hoie, tae ki e. Nau mai whakatau mai rā ki tō tātou nei hui ai purangi. Tino harikoa ahau ki te mihi, ki a koutou, e hapai ana te kaupapa I tēnei rā. Ko wai tēnei mua I a koutou. Ko tongarero te maunga, ko mowhango te awa, ko te aroa te waka, ko Ngāti tūwhare toa te iwi, ko Ngāti whiti kaupeka te hapu, ko mowhango te marae, ko Pauline Bennett Tamati ahau. Ko te kai whakahaere ahau I te wāhanga RMO unit, pota noa I o tātou rohe o te Whanganui ātara, me te awa kairangi hoki. Nei rā te mihi ki a koutou katoa. A big welcome to you all and thank you for joining us today. My name is Pauline Bennett Tamati and I'm the District RMO Unit Manager. For those who are new to our district, we have hospitals here in Wellington, we have a hospital at Keneparu in Porirua, we have a health centre in Paraparaumu, we have a district hospital in Hutt Valley, and we have a district hospital in Wairarapa. Our RMO units are based here in Wellington and one at Hutt Valley Hospital. Our teams include roster coordinators and administrators. Here in Wellington, we have recruitment advisors, we have a care coordinator and a clinical advisor. We also have a team of pre-vocational education supervisors and are privileged to have the Director of Clinical Training working closely beside us. Today you'll meet some of our team directly involved in the recruitment process for first-year house officers. Annually, we recruit approximately 600 RMOs to our district. I recognise the decision you're about to make is really important, so please ask your questions. Utilise the wealth of knowledge that our panel brings to you today.
Hello, I'm Dr. Chris Mott, I'm a surgeon. I also work with the RMO unit and I am the clinical leader and director of training. I'd like to welcome you to your opportunity to come and work for us in the future. We previously covered 3 DHBs, being Capital Coast, Hutt and Masterton. We're now in the process of combining Capital Coast and Hutt into one district. Really looking forward to the opportunity of talking to you and working with you in the future. Many thanks.
Wow, that was lovely. So thanks to Pauline and Chris for the lovely intro. And also thank you to everybody for taking the time to join today's webinar. We'll move on to the panelists' introductions very shortly. And then we have another exciting video for you all to watch. And this is combined with a presentation presented by our panelists. And then our RMO reps will tell you a little bit more and give you some tips about working at Wellington. Towards the end of the webinar, we'll have a live Q&A session. And then finally, we will close off with a closing karakia. Just a reminder, all questions can be dropped in the Q&A box below your screen. You should be able to see that, hopefully. You can do this throughout the webinar, but they will only be answered towards the end of the session. So panelists, over to you.
Kia ora, everyone. My name's Rosie. I'm a PGY2 working here in Wellington.
Hi, my name is Sid. I'm one of the recruitment advisors for Wellington region.
Kia koutou, ko Australia tapuinga. I'm a ear, nose and throat surgeon by trade, but I'm also a pre-vocational educational supervisor.
I'm Chris Marge. I'm a general and breast surgeon, and I'm also clinical leader for the RMO unit.
Kia ora, I'm Ricky. I'm a PGY1 health officer.
And I'm Pauline again. So, along with those who have introduced themselves, we also have here other recruitment advisors as part of the team. We have Bernard, who works alongside Sid with a different portfolio. We have a wonderful resource in Nia Bartley, and she played a pivotal role in actually bringing the webinar together for us. And of course, we have Sumit Tiwari, who is the care coordinator. And so as new RMOs come on board, you will be in contact with him at some stage at the beginning. So he's part of our onboarding team. Let me tell you a bit about a few past facts from Wellington. Now, for those of you that haven't been here before, I'm proud to say that our cafe scene down here is excellent. The nightlife, Ricky will be able to, Ricky, you're on screen now, I'm sure you'd be able to talk to the training interns out there about life for a young one like yourself coming to work in our region. We certainly have lots of walking trails close to the city. Te Papa is extraordinary, our museum down here, and is a must-see. Of course, we have events like the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra. We have the World of Wearable Arts, which is a significant event here in Wellington. Weta Workshop, of course, is world renowned. So certainly another place to actually visit. What are other things that you would have been involved in, Ricky, in your time down here?
I went to watch the ballet last week. I went to watch Swan Lake, which has been really nice. There's great surfing beaches out in Wellington. And yeah, like you said, there's great treks to do. But yeah, the food scene in Wellington is amazing.
Join in, Rosie. They want to hear from you more than me.
Lots of great food, great hiking trails between here and the Wairarapa. Can get away for a weekend trip. Lots of great op shopping too.
The things I remember about Hutt Valley in particular, I mean, I've lived down here for many, many years, but the shopping in Hutt Valley, Petone in particular, the boutique shops out that way, the walks along the waterfront, absolutely a wonderful way to spend the afternoon. The seaside communities out there, when I think about Hutt Valley and Wellington Oriental Parade and out at Lyell Bay, they are definitely communities. I think the thing about Wellington and Hutt and Wairarapa, they're places that I suppose when you think about the Wellingtonians, we love our cities, we love our townships. There's so much to offer. Wairarapa is absolutely stunning. What's the big food festival they have every year up there?
Oh, then it's the drinking festival.
The wine trails.
Yeah.
The things that are memorable to me are the times we've camped on the beaches when we've gone diving out along. What's the place? It's on the east coast, Cora. But often Wairarapa is connected to, when we talk about it, the night skies, and to camp out there, it is absolutely pitch dark, so the night skies are absolutely stunning. So these are things that you would expect to see if you were going to work at some stage out that way, or even visit Wairarapa, as it's not very far from the main city. So what have we got next? Why work in Wellington? Well, let me hand that over to Chris and Alice, or even our PGY 1s and 2s, Rosie and Ricky.
Wellington Region's a great place to work because you can get a tasting menu of everything. You can get your tertiary services, you can get your rural practice. We've got the simulation suite, we've got most of the tertiary services. And that means you can get a really good tasting menu starting your career, and you don't end up being stuck anywhere. So if you're wanting to have a little bit of big city experience, a little bit of rural experience, and being able to do it in 1 year, it's a really good place to start to build your career with experience, with diversity. And we're also small enough to be a community.
Yeah.
So that when you walk around the hospital, actually you've got a good chance of knowing many of your colleagues, many of the staff that are there, because we're a bit of a family. Somebody else can take over from me now.
Yeah, so you can be, as Chris said, you can be in Wellington Hospital, which is your tertiary hospital, with everything. I'm surgical, so I'm going to say neurosurgery and cardiothoracics, but obviously the medical tertiary services as well. Kenny Peru is our community hospital that used to be part of CCDHB, and that's more sort of day case surgeries and very stable medical patients. In psych and rehabilitation. Hutt Hospital is a great secondary hospital with tertiary services in rheumatology and plastics, max fix, and so lots of inpatients as well as outpatient work there too. And then Wairarapa is a fantastic opportunity to spend 3 months at a time, or longer if you wanted to, really getting a taste for rural medicine, having a little bit more autonomy and a little bit more direct contact with the consultant. There aren't very many registrars out there. Well, Wairarapa is set up for that. It supports our house officers out there. And yeah, it's just a great opportunity to sort of do everything, really.
It tends to be a really social time, and actually house surgeons tend to have a lot of fun there. Which is great.
I'd agree with that. I was out there last year in Masterton and I really enjoyed the group that was out there. There's about 20 to 30 or so house officers and you're often socialising with yourselves, so that's yeah, good, but you also get exposed to things that you wouldn't in the bigger hospitals.
We try to send our house surgeons out in friend groups, so that where people are going out, then we can go, who's going to actually work well with you, and who do you want to be with at the time. It comes with accommodation. It's just too far to commute on a day-to-day basis. So if you've got your flat set up in the city, you're not going to be paying for additional accommodation while you're in the Wairarapa. So we're looking after, most people are in the Wairarapa for 1 quarter at some point in time in their first 2 years. Although I don't have first year house surgeons there in the first 2 quarters, because of the need for a little bit more supervision for nights. So we want to have people well ready and safe to work there. The SMOs are well used to the fact that they don't have registrars and that house surgeons are they work with. So instead of trying to describe an ECG over the phone, there's technology now that ECG can be sent in front of the consultant and they can then go, oh, that's what you're talking about. Much easier.
Yeah. And Wellington itself is just so easy to get around. I spent a time in other parts of the country and you got lost in various bigger cities, but Wellington's so easy to get around, and I personally drive out to Kenepuru and Hutt at least once a day, and it's just such a beautiful drive against the traffic, so you can like wave at all the traffic coming the other way, and across the harbour, just beautiful with the sun rising over the harbour. It's just a lovely place to live.
I think one thing to mention about Wellington in recent years is the cycle track, and that has only really come probably in the last 2 years, but to be able to bike all the way to and from town from let's say Island Bay, for example, it's something that we didn't really have the pleasure of doing. So cycling is definitely promoted down here, and the tracks make a big difference.
Okay, so what we offer as a district is we take currently 58 PGY1s through the ACE program. I'm still waiting for confirmed exact numbers.
Supportive, friendly, and busy.
It's fun, it's exciting, and it's a bit of home.
So working in Masterton, which is a much smaller hospital, you meet different challenges like not having access to all the specialist services like you would in Wellington. Similarly in Hutt, you only have a smaller set of specialist services, so you do have to figure out how to overcome those barriers, which I found really useful for my overall practice, but it also teaches you a lot of stuff that you may not get exposed to if you are in a bigger centre, because you're just having to manage a lot more things by yourself.
I had such a great experience at the main hospital with such a wide variety of specialties, but also out at Hutt and Kenepuru, just being in those smaller centres. You get to know a lot of the doctors and the teams very quickly, so you always know that when you're needing help from different specialties, you're a phone call away from a friend.
It's a very supportive environment. I didn't study here, so I was a bit worried about coming to a new hospital and district, but I found it very welcoming and very supportive within the teams that I worked in at Hutt, and it made the transition really easy.
So I'm always surprised by how busy people can be, but they're still just really supportive and nice towards, you know, new house officers others, but also like towards each other, which is, you know, good to see that it'd be a nice place to be able to progress in my training and have that support all round throughout.
It's definitely busy, but I found everyone very encouraging to leave on time and to not spend, you know, too much of your free time at the hospital.
Yeah, so I've been really lucky, and even the registrars and bosses on my team have been really supportive of my work-life balance in terms of checking in on me and making sure I'm getting out there, making the most of Wellington.
I've actually found a lot of it really rewarding, particularly working closely with patients in certain services, particularly on surgery. You'll be the team member that patients and families interact with the most, and I found that really rewarding, being that kind of convoy of information. I remember my first day, I was very, very nervous, but it actually ended up being fine. Everyone knows you're new and they expect you to be new and unsure. So, you know, that they'll support you throughout that. Once you get through your first day, you get through your first week, and you get through your first month, and it all works out. There's always something happening in the city, whether that's, you know, live music playing or a art session. I've gone to a few of those, which have been really fun. And then even further around the Wellington, it's so easy to go over to, you know, over the hills to the Waiata Upper. It's also really close to the west coast, so that's up Kapiti Way. I've been up there with my family and that was really beautiful, and it's all very easy for a day trip.
Wellington is a great place to be if you're a coffee or a food addict like I am. There's just so many great restaurants to explore and so many cafes that have different specialty coffees. You're always bound to find a good coffee spot in Wellington.
There's lots of art and creative things you can do here. There's good hikes if you're into tramping. You can go to the Tauranga Ranges pretty easily for a weekend trip, and lots of great food.
Going to all the street festivals, going to all the music events around the area, and going surfing out in Lyle Bay.
So Wellington itself is a larger centre with all the different subspecialties, but then you also get the chance to work in Hutt, which is a bit smaller, and then, you know, Masterton again, which is even smaller, and you get to see that variety and have the chance to work in smaller centres while living in a bigger city.
If you're considering coming to Wellington, make it your first choice. It is a great hospital, it's got amazing teams and just brilliant people to work with, and I would definitely choose to be in Wellington for the foreseeable future. But I would say on a good day, you can't beat it.
So we have a range of run options. Our goal for our first year house surgeons is to get their general registration, and the medical council have got some rules as to what you're allowed to and not allowed to do. And what we do is create a tasting menu of 4 runs for the year, and they will include the runs that are listed here. But what we do is we get our new house surgeons to actually select what's going to be most interesting for them. We do office and obstetrics and gynecology in the second half of the year, which is relatively unusual. And in second year, we are currently offering some ICU, which is really exciting, and anaesthetics. Again, is really exciting. So for first years, basically you get a list of the 58 modules which are suitable for registration. Some will have a bit more surgery, some will have a bit more medicine. All will be suitable for registration, and we ask you to categorise them in the order that you want them, a little bit like a match. And then we play the world's largest game of Sudoku, trying to create maximum happiness. But I think that as doctors, you need to have some autonomy and some options to actually start putting a stamp on what you want to do within the hospital. Second year, We do need to have enough relievers because the contractual arrangements, but we do work on making sure people have access to their community runs. And then we try and do something vocational to go with it as well, because we know that most of our house surgeons will actually be turning into SHOs and registrars in their third year. So your house surgeon time is a very small part of your total career. And if we can get you a good start, you become our good senior colleagues in the future.
It's very fast, yeah. Very soon you'll be our senior colleagues in the future. In terms of teaching, we are in the constant process of rearranging the teaching to suit your needs better and to give you the teaching that you need to be better doctors, but also fitting within what the medical council requires. So at the moment, we have a joint session once a week with HUT that, you know, it's either at the HUT or Wellington, and the other site zooms in and Kenny Crew zooms in. And then there's another session that happens locally at the separate hospitals, and they are protected teaching time. We are working on a campaign to make sure that that is more accepted around the hospital. Not that it's been that bad, but I think we can do better. And yeah, so it's a constantly changing feast. So that you see in front of you is how it stands now, but it will probably be different next year. As I say, we're constantly changing it and reviewing it and asking for feedback to try and make it relevant to you and your educational needs.
Often the earliest sessions are very practical. So it can be top tips of how to manage emergency calls, how to work on fluid balance, and then some administrative stuff like how to manage death certificates, which help make the job work better.
How to get a job here. There at the end of this and on ACE, there will be a QR code that you'll be able to click on and fill in a form that will go over why you want to come here, a bit about you, and when you are doing your elective. And then we will ring you at some stage in the nearest future. One of me or my colleagues who are educational supervisors will ring you and have a very short interview just to sort of get to know you a little bit. And then it's all up to the ACE match.
So the things that we specifically look at will be your interview, which is your phone interview. You will only get one if you complete a expression of interest survey.
That's that QR code.
That's the QR code. We look at your cover letter, your personal statement. We look at your connections to the Wellington region. We look at your CV. We look at your references.
Generally, based on the last couple of years, we have been very privileged to get great house officers who have made great colleagues for each other, who have filled in that expression of interest form and had the interview and also ranked Wellington pretty highly.
We appear, although we never officially know, to be quite a popular centre to work in. So if you're serious about wanting to work in our region, please rank us first. If you're serious about wanting a job, do fill in that expression of interest form, because you will only get a phone interview if we actually know about you. And that scores you additional points that if you don't contact us, won't happen. Yeah, we're interested in how people are going to fit into our community, and people who've had connections to our community, be their family, whether they're church groups, whatever. We've found that they tend to make really good house surgeons. We like people who are interesting, who can do stuff other than medicine, because that makes more interesting colleagues in 10 years' time. Life is not just all about medicine. It's also about having fun. It's about having a life outside of the hospital, but working hard while we're here.
That's right. And I mean, there's no cutting around it. The first year of being a doctor is hard. It's a steep learning curve, and you want to be, if you have connections to our area and they're going to be there to support you in a way that you need, then we want to know about that so we can help to support you as well.
And do complete your ACE application completely. because if people only fill in bits and pieces of it and don't tell us the full story, you won't get your full set of points. And remember that we are 3 hospitals, Wairarapa, the Hut and Wellington Kenepuru. And people on the committee who actually decided the allocations represent all of those hospitals. And they sometimes get their noses out of joint if you appear to have forgotten that you're going to be working in them. So it would be a top tip to include the fact that you're going to be working in a district and that you recognise that we're a region.
QR code and the link for the expression of interest is in the employer info sheet that's up in the ACE website. You can find the QR code and the link.
That was really lovely. Thank you. Ricky and Rosie, is there anything you wanted to add? Maybe some tips for our applicants?
Talk about interests outside of medicine as well. You know, making your cover letter and things sound more personable is going to make you stand out a bit more.
I guess just for the interviews, it's like sometimes the boss doctors who call you, but they're all very personable, so don't be too worried about them.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got some questions. How is it working / moving between multiple hospitals as a house officer?
In the modules, which we haven't got listed here, I aim to keep you in the same hospital computer system for the first 6 months so that you get to know. So if you're at Hut, you'll be staying at Hut for those first 6 months. There are some modules which are at Hut for the whole year. There are some people that worry that actually they'd like to do a little bit of work in Wellington and worry that they'll be missed out, which is not true. So there's some moving around. The Wairarapa people generally want to go there for 3 months. However, I will create special modules if people want to go there for longer. And most people are going to the Wairarapa in their 2nd year. We do our best to try and make those moves as reasonable as possible. There is an orientation program for each move if required.
Already, how have you found it?
It's always a slight adjustment, but most of the computer systems, although they're different, they are broadly the same. So you figure it out pretty quickly. I wouldn't say I've had any issues.
And travel?
Travel is fine. So I live out in the suburbs, and so in Kandala, and it's a pretty equal drive out to the Hut and out to Wellington. And then in Masterton, it doesn't matter because you're living out there and all the flats are great.
Oh, thank you. Next question. What is the maximum time you can spend in Wairarapa?
In your first year, you should spend some time in different things, and we need to get you a broad range of stuff. But after that, you can spend all your time up there if you like.
We're keen to find long-term permanent employees for the Wairarapa, and if a tasting menu is that's the rural community you want to be in, we will support you. In the same way, if you want to do psychiatry or pathology or public health, our goal is to support you in that we provide you a big broad base. And then we also allow you to start heading towards where your vocation's going to be.
We've certainly arranged for house officers, especially in their 2nd year, to have all Masterton runs if they wanted that, because they wanted that.
Could you please repeat the number you said as to how many PGY1s Wellington region is likely to accept?
58. There may be a few extra house surgeons, well, current trainee interns graduating this year, and there's a little bit of discussion at the very high levels as to where those additional 50 house surgeons, well, trainee interns will be getting a job. And we have put our hand up, but I haven't had confirmed whether we'll be getting any addition above the 58 that we used to getting.
Cool. How is the food?
What, in Wellington?
It just says how is the food? I believe it's hospital food.
Hospital food, yeah.
The cafe in Wellington is actually not too bad. At Kenepuru is not too bad. The lunchtime menu at Hut is reasonable. The dinner menu at Hut could try a little harder, and we're working on some options.
And Masterton, I'm not sure is.
Masterton's actually pretty good.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And we've got some quite good cafes and some decent coffee on site, which helps make a day go a little quicker.
How often do you take work home with you?
I mean, it probably depends person to person. Some people probably find they think about it more. I've been okay. I think teams are really supportive, and if you've got things and questions that you're worrying about, I haven't had any issues bringing it up with registrars and SMOs as well. So I haven't found it bad at all.
I feel like I tend to never take work home, but like if I've got something that I want to ask, like I will just ask it on the day and get some help, because there's nothing worse than feeling like, oh, if I go home and not talk to anybody about this, then I'm going to like ponder over it. So I do just reach out and ask, and they've always been really supportive.
I only employ you for a certain numbers of hours in a week. We want you to go home and have a life.
Is there a way for us to check that we have already filled out the expression of interest form? I did it some time ago.
I expect that people who have already filled in their forms will be getting contacted within the next week.
If you haven't heard by Monday, then fill it in again.
I am going on elective at the end of next week. Will the interview likely be in the next week or late August when I get back?
If you fill in the form, if you've already filled it in, then it will be within the next week. If you fill it in today, then it'll be, and mention, that's why we ask what quarter your elective is, so that we don't catch you when you're working hard and wherever you're going to go. Then we will bring you before next week.
August is a little bit late because most of the ACE work will have happened by then.
Thank you. The next question I can probably answer. Do interviews take place before the ACE application closing date on 5th of July? So that's probably no, because the ACE match only happens after the intake closes on the 5th of July. But you're welcome to contact the districts directly to get to know a bit more about what it's like working at the hospital. Is there anything you would like to add?
Our interviews are somewhat separate to the ACE process. So yes, we do want to know about you before the ACE finishes, because we do aim to get all of those interviews done before your ACE application, hence the expression of interest form. And the sooner we know about you, the sooner the better. If people are starting to apply for the interview after the ACE is closed, I kind of view those as late ones.
If we've already matched with our ACE and sent our thing back, that is too late. I can put a date out there somewhere. I can't find it on my calendar when we're ACE matching.
Ideally, contact the RMO unit well before the ACE match so that we can get your interview. We're interviewing about 120, 130 people. You can do all of those in one evening. It takes time, and we need time to do it. So the sooner you put your name in the list, the quicker we will get your interview done. But we do endeavour anybody who has asked for an interview will get one. It is hard to be ACE matched to us if you don't ask for an interview, because we give points in our ranking scale for that interview.
Thank you. Are phone interviews scheduled or at a random time?
We generally will contact you within about 48 hours before the interview. I will send out a batch of, when I'm doing them, send out a batch of saying, I would like to do your ACE interview in the next either Tuesday night, Wednesday night or Thursday night. Please email me back with your name so I know which one of those dates suit. And I do most of my interviews between 7:30 and about 8:30 in the evening. As I found that our trainee interns don't like being interviewed while they think they should be at work.
Oh, thank you. Next question, kia ora. Does the phone interview consist of, what does the phone interview consist of, and how can we prepare for this?
Phone interview, we aim to make it relatively informal. We want to know about you. We want to know about your connection. We want to know what's the sparkle that makes you different from everybody else who is a medical student and is a trainee intern who will be finishing with their medical degree shortly. We also ask some clinical questions because they're expected. And the biggest part about the interview is really how people answer questions rather than the exact answers. But we want to basically give you every advantage to score well, to say, hey, you're somebody we want to work having in the region. So no, there's no specific homework.
Great. With so many RMOs, can it feel like you are just a number or still part of a team where people recognise and know you?
I can definitely speak for working in the hut where I worked for the first 9 months. Absolutely not. You get really familiar with working with the registrars and the bosses. And I've just started working in Wellington and I've had a similar experience here.
My team, one of the first jobs of the day is to get your phone number, and you can have my phone number so we can work as a team, and that you can always know that you can contact me.
So I started in Wellington this year, and although it's the biggest of the hospitals, the teams have always felt like really close knitted, and because a lot of the registrars and bosses also like know each other, you kind of get to know other teams quite easily. And so, yeah, it's really easy to start getting along with everyone around the hospital.
Thanks for that. Next question. Do the phone interviews for people on elective in Q3 happen before Q3?
If you get your application in, then we will endeavour to get as many of those interviews done within the next week as practically possible. If you write on the form when you're going on your elective, that will give us that little bit of extra enthusiasm to get it done. If you're going to be somewhere where you can do a WhatsApp phone call, that's okay, and we understand that sometimes they don't always have the very best communication, and if it peters out, we keep going until we get there. I've certainly interviewed historically people in airports and a number of quite exciting locations, but best if I can interview while you're still at home.
Perfect. What is RMO staffing like in Masterton? Is it typical for house surgeons to get placed there if that is their preference?
So we have 16 house surgeons in Wairarapa plus 2 registrars. If you're keen to work in the Wairarapa, we endeavour to get you a job there, but I don't have any PGY1 house surgeons in their first 2 quarters because I want to know that you've actually met the standard patient issues and you're okay for the first 10 minutes until the consultant can get in if things have really gone a bit uncomfortable. And if you're very keen on working in the Wairarapa, we will endeavour to make that happen for you. And if there are reasons why working in the Wairarapa and being away from home will be dreadful, our goal is actually to look after our house surgeons and our staff because actually you're part of our team.
When we ask you when you want to go to Masterton, we take into account sports and commitments over the winter, jazz bands and those sorts of things. Obviously, if you have a child, you're less likely to want to leave them for 3 months to go to Wairarapa or not. But you know, heaps of different reasons for really valid reasons that people can't go to Wairarapa for particular times of the year and things like that. And we really, I mean, we're not here to make you miserable. We're here to make sure you have a good time when you get it, you know, a functional, healthy, educational time for you when you go up there.
I think leads to the answer for the next question. Do you guys set up a time in advance for interviews, just so we are aware and can be off the wards?
Oh yeah, it's usually in the evening because we are all also doctors. So we, I think most of mine are usually in the evening. I think the others usually do it during the evening as well.
My children have got pretty good at answering the questions and understanding our clinical questions.
The children's name and phone number.
We do edit our questions every year and we have a question bank so that
They are different, yeah.
We have noticed when we had a smaller bank that there'd be a stuttering start, and then the quality of the answers would go up and up as there'd clearly been distribution of information. So we now have a bank of questions to help that. But again, it's not so much exactly the answers, it's how people go about answering is the really interesting things that actually help discriminate who's going to be a great doctor, who's going to fit into our region well. We're trying to find our psychiatrists, our GPs, our pathologists, our physicians, our paediatricians, our obstetricians, our public health doctors, our surgeons for the future. And we need lots of different people with lots of different skill sets.
And you'll get just as many points for a good answer as you will if you can name all 4 hospitals that you might work in when you come to Wellington region. So those hospitals again are Kirikuru Hospital, Wellington Hospital, Hutt Hospital, and Wairarapa Hospital.
And that's because when we have our ACE panel, there are representatives from all of the hospitals who sometimes get their noses out of joint if they feel that they've been forgotten.
Right. So our last question. Do you tend to lean towards taking students who trained at Welly School over others?
There's no advantage of being Welly versus anywhere else. We want the very best doctors for our region for the future. Because what we're really after is what's going to happen in the next 15, 20, 30 years of your career. That's what we're after, not simply looking after the medical students that I quite like that I've worked with already. I don't want to miss out on the best people.
I would preface that with though that quite a lot of our medical students have come to Wellington because they already have family connections here. And have all community connections here, and so that would be valued. But then if you have been away for however long and have community or whānau connections here, then that's just as well, it's just as valued.
Well, you can figure out which church and which sports club that you're going to be joining, and that's a connection too.
Thank you. Does anybody have anything else to add? No, not really. Okay, so if you have further questions, please feel free to contact the RMO unit directly, or if it's related to ACE, you can contact me at rmo@acenz.net.nz or give me a call. I will now close off with a closing karakia. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa pounamu te moana. Hei huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou, ia tātou katoa, hui e tai kie. Thank you to all our panelists and our attendees. Have a lovely evening. Bye.